Planning on publishing a newspaper? Too bold, you say? How about publishing a newsletter then? Either way, you need columns. Columns aren't only used in laying out newspapers and newsletters, however. As you discover in this video, Word allows you to set up columns to your heart's content. As you format your documents in Word, you may find it better to lay out your text in columns. The number of columns you use is up to you. Word allows you to divide your page into just about as many columns as you can imagine. To add columns to your page layout, go ahead and display the Layout tab of the ribbon, as you can see we have on the screen up here. And then there's a tool right here in the Page Setup group that says Columns. If I click on this, you can see that I'm offered to set 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns, or these 2 fancy layout columns that are right down here. But if you want more than these 5 options, then you need to go ahead and click on More Columns right down at the bottom of these options. And when you do, Word displays the Columns dialog box on the screen. Those 5 options that we looked at just a minute ago are available up here in the Presets area of the dialog box. You can specify the number of columns that you want by using the Number of Columns control right down here. And notice as I increase this, that the preview area at the right side of the dialog box changes to show the number of columns that I select. You can select up to 45 columns for your document. Now, there's an interesting side note here. If you use the up and down arrows like I'm using right here, you'll note that you can choose a range between 1 and 13 columns. I can't go any higher than 13 columns right here. This is the case when I'm using a portrait-oriented document layout. If I change to a landscape-oriented layout, then I can use the control to go between 1 and 18 columns. It appears that Word sets the upper limit of the control so that no individual column on the paper will be less than a ½ inch wide. If you change the printable area, adjust the paper size, orientation, and margins, then Word adjusts the upper limit of the number of columns control. Don't let this fool you, however. You can still set up to 45 columns, well, sort of. You just have to go ahead in here and type that number within this control. If you try to type a number that's larger than 45, well, Word generates an error message that says you can only set between 1 and 45 columns. So you can try to type a larger number into the control, but when you do and then start working with a different control in the dialog box, Word adjusts the number of columns back down to the calculated maximum that we discussed just a moment ago. So I'm going to go back down to, let's say, we'll pick this preset right here and go to 2, maybe 3 columns right in here. Now notice that there's some other controls that are in this dialog box as well. When you choose a number of columns like we have here, Word automatically calculates the width of each column given your page size, margins, and how much space you want left between each column. You can, if you desire, change Word's suggested spacing by adjusting this control. As you do, notice that Word adjusts the column widths as well. So we can go down to 0.2 if we want to, or 0.1, or up to a full inch or so in here. And Word adjusts the width of each column to allow for that spacing that we want to use within our layout. If you don't want all the columns to be an equal width, then you can go ahead and clear this checkbox right down here. And when you clear it, you'll notice that the other columns became available in here. And we can adjust the width of these columns if we want to, and Word will then adjust the other columns to make sure that we don't overrun the margins that we have available within our document. Finally, this checkbox right up here says Line Between, and it can be quite helpful. If you choose this checkbox, notice what happens in the preview area. Word inserts a line in between each column in the layout, and it'll actually display that on the screen or print out that line so that you can see it in your document layout. Now, when you're done specifying all of your columns and all of your spacing that you want to have within the document, go ahead and click on the OK button, and Word adjusts the layout of your document to match what you specified. In our case, the entire document has been affected by the column settings that I made. If you only want to affect a portion of a document, well, Word makes that easy as well. As an example, I'm going to go ahead and press Ctrl Z here to undo the columns. We're back to a single column in our layout. Now let's assume that we want to format the center portion of this page so that it has 3 columns in it, but everything else is left the way that we have it with a single column. Well, in order to do that, all we would have to do is go ahead and select the portion of the page that we want to use multiple columns. And then we're going to go ahead and select in the columns area up here, we're going to select more columns. Specify that we want 3 columns in our layout. And notice down here we can specify what we want this applied to. In this case, I want it applied to the selected text. And when I click on OK, notice that what happened was Word inserted a section break before that section and a section break after that section, and it formatted just that one section so it has 3 columns within it. Before that section, we're back to 1 column, and after that section, we're back to 1 column. I hope this video was helpful and that you learned a trick or two about how to better lay out your document. If you did, please be sure to click the subscribe button below this video. Also, click the bell icon if you want to be notified when new videos are added to the Word Tips channel. Thanks for spending some time with me today.